Hello. Today will be a slight departure from my usual content, which is more podcast vibes, which you should definitely check out, by the way. So, I was browsing YouTube and I stumbled across a video by the channel Unsubscribed Podcast, and I recognized this guy, Nick Freitas, a Virginia state legislator and a right-wing political commentator. So I clicked on the video to see what was going down. And for the first 25 minutes, I was right. It was garbage. Although, I must say, this was not traditional right-wing slop, but authentic 1950s era McCarthyism, Red Scare slop, which is something you do not see anymore, so in a twisted and demented kind of way, it was actually refreshing. So I was just cleaning up around my apartment, and then I heard this.
So my last 2 years of high school, I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, would you like to explain what a homeschool co-op is?
Oh, sure.
So that's probably something not a lot of people
I
know.
had no idea.
Oh, okay. So homeschool co-op is generally what happens is you get a bunch of parents together and they realize that, okay, hey, but that's what it was, is you had different parents with different, like, either educational backgrounds or life experience, and they would come in and they would teach stuff they were passionate about.
And immediately my interest was piqued. What was this Red Scare right-wing guy going to describe as a quote-unquote homeschool co-op? So to my absolute genuine surprise, he described a homeschool co-op. Not school with extra steps, or some weird, perverted version of a Christian education structure, but a real homeschool co-op. Parents getting together and collecting funds and democratically dividing education among the parents who either had education or lived experience in a given subject. While I do not trust the actual material being taught here, the structure and the actual honest admission about what they had built was astonishing. All the guys at the table loved the idea, which, again, blew me away. I'm actually happy this has happened and this video was published by them, because it seems someone needs to educate them on what they were describing and what they were practicing. So, let's get right into it. So, the first claim is that it was actually all free market.
So that's like one model of a co-op. Some do 2 days a week, whatever, but that's the nice part, is it's free market.
Interesting thing about this claim is that it is surprise socialism! Jokes aside, what these guys were describing is a decentralized, democratic educational model designed around the teachers, and in this case the parents, democratically deciding what they were going to teach and how they were going to teach it. Some people on the left would call this socialism or anarchism, praxis. Now, I'm sure I'm going to start losing people, so let's define some terms. The terms I want to define are socialism and anarchism. So, first, anarchism, a political philosophy and movement that seeks to abolish all institutions that perpetuate authority, coercion, or hierarchy, primarily targeting the state and capitalism. Anarchism advocates for the replacement of the state with stateless societies and voluntary free associations. Now, my fellow anarchists, please do not string me up for using this definition. I recognize that it is extremely simple, vague, and pretty wrong, but for the sake of this conversation, it will achieve the results we need. Now to define socialism. Socialism, an economic and political philosophy encompassing diverse economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production as opposed to private ownership. While I can recognize that this definition is also incredibly vague and controversial, it again will achieve the means that we need it to achieve. So to expand on the definition of socialism and the social ownership of the means of production, it is referring to the workers owning the means of production, i.e., you and all of your fellow co-workers being in complete and total democratic control over the work that you do. To give an extremely simple and rather silly example of this would be your mom wants to bake pies and sell them on the Saturday market in your town. Does it make sense for your neighbor to make all of the decisions for your mom and how she bakes this pie and how hot, what the filling's made of, when she bakes them, how she sets them up, how she sells them, and then to take all the profits that she got from selling them at the Saturday market? Or does it make more sense for your mom to be in complete and total ownership of her labor, meaning baking the pies, and she gets to keep all the fruits of her labor? To leave behind that silly example, I believe we can all agree that the current system is very unfair and very unbalanced. Socialism seeks to give the control back to the people doing the work every day. You. So, if we examine what Nick was describing, he described the following. 1. A system of individuals freely associating without intervention of the state to control the means of their ability to educate. 2. A system wherein parents get to democratically vote on what topics will be taught, by who, and for how long. 3. A system where all of the resources of the parents are distributed and received according to who is teaching or able to provide more. Despite what Nick claims that this is quote-unquote free market, to which I think he's confusing free market with being allowed to make decisions, I think we can all understand that those are not the same thing. But what he has described is total democratic control over the labor, community-based decision-making that we all have an equal say in. This man has described socialism, or anarchism, in practice, and he loves it. While I recognize his motivations, and potentially the motivations of the other parents do not seem entirely wholesome, my argument is not for what the material they are teaching, but rather the structure that they have built. I will say the current schooling system is fairly needed, and definitely has plenty of drawbacks, but it also has its merits, like any system. I'm also not advocating for us to have a 100% decentralized educational system with no checks and no balance on education for the US. We are not ready for that, and we could not handle that. So, also in the video, Nick references state media.
Well, yeah, our public school system, and I call it a government school system because that's what it is.
Yep.
The thing I like to tell people, because people always look at me like, well, you know, I said, look, do you like state-run media? Do you think we should have state-run media? Well, no, of course not. I'm like, okay, now do the same for education. You don't like state-run media because it's the government controlling the flow of information to its citizenry and not being able to hold it accountable. What do you think happens with government-run education?
Previous.
I want all of us to take this just one more small step. What Nick is attempting to ultimately address with his quote-unquote co-op system is not government, but centralization of power and the corruption it brings, which I commend. I will also add that decentralization of power and coercion is inherently a left-wing ideal. The state and capitalism both equally coerce people and control them, stripping them of control over their lives. So let's take Nick's idea, and we're going to take it one more step, to your workplace. What would happen if you had a say over who your boss is? What if you had a say in whether or not the location you are working at should permanently close or not? What if you had a say in how the workplace should be run, not someone who has never actually been inside the building you're currently working at? I'm not asking you to be some radical Marxist agitator looter or anything like that, but I want you to ask yourself the questions I just asked you. While this video was exhausting to even get halfway through, I did enjoy seeing a Cold War Red Scare anti-communist promoting communism. Another conservative doing accidental socialism while saying they hate socialism. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. These videos do take some time to make, so any help is appreciated. We have a Patreon, and any support there goes straight into the channel, like getting an editor, to help make these videos higher quality and to come out faster. Also on screen are some suggested videos that you can check out. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.